in the chat. Cool. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Cool. All right, let's make a start. I'm going to start on going through gold price action and NQ. So gold, NQ, probably euro, and then I'll open the floor for like Q&A type questions on technicals, and any questions you guys have, feel free to have them in the. Feel free to type them in the chat. Okay. All right, let's get started. I'm hoping you can all see my screen. Cool. Let's get started on gold and the gold market. So, as I've been speaking about, and as I mentioned in the last recording of the webinar, we mentioned how we induced sellers with this move down. Okay, so we had this move down inducing sellers, and then we came and we took out those early sellers and induced buyers along the way. Okay. And by inducing buyers, okay, you can see how we've had reactions, and on our way down, we've been leaving, if you have a look, we've been leaving highs intact, okay, and breaking structure to the downside, okay? So for example, we broke structure, left the highs intact, came back down, broke structure, okay, and we left these highs intact, okay, we broke structure again, okay, and so going into this week, what I was looking for was buyers to be trapped and then to have those longs back up to take out these highs, and that's exactly what we did. Now, just to be careful, we haven't actually taken the inducement from the left, okay? So we haven't taken that out yet. So any buys were risky. However, if we go down to lower time frames here, okay, just make sure everything's running. Cool. So if we go to lower time frames here, you can see how we took out that build up, okay? And that's what I was waiting for, okay? I was waiting for buyers to essentially get trapped, okay? This whole thing here to the left was a massive build up of price, okay? I would not be buying above those highs. And notice how we broke structure, okay? We came and respected these highs, okay? And then we broke structure again, inducing sellers, okay? So we induced sellers, oops, respected those highs, and then we basically came back down. So this was on Wednesday going into Thursday. Notice how we had that reaction up as well, okay? Really, really important. And today I'm going to dissect a lot of technicals and a lot of questions people tend to have when we're kind of approaching the chart. So you can see once those lows went, now, you wouldn't be looking for buys straight away, okay? You don't know if this is the bottom being placed in yet. So any buys after this low has gone is pretty risky, okay? It's not, and you want to align the higher time frame and the lower time frame, okay? So you want to wait for that reaction out. Let the market tell you that we're moving higher, okay? And then if we go down to lower time frames here, okay? Notice how any reactions from the left should be false. Any LBs should give us false reactions down. And all we were waiting for is buyers essentially to get trapped And I believe it was a Friday where we saw that. So you can see how we have liquidity built up to the left. Okay, you have this channel of price. So if I just, yeah, so you've got this channel, okay, this liquidity, which we can mark out, okay, and I have a lot of the time, especially when we're answering technical questions, is that why can price not come all the way down to these lows? Okay, it's a very common question we get asked. Now, remember, the market's unpredictable. It can react and have this sell-off, but that's why we don't take trades straight away. What we're looking for, according to our model, is we're looking for buyers to essentially get trapped. Okay, and notice this reaction here. Okay, so this is really, really important to see. So we basically break structure and we respect these lows. Okay, we respect these lows and then we break structure again. Okay, now whatever's happening on the 15 is happening on the 5, is happening on the 1. Okay, so we have that reaction back up. Okay, and this, what I'm about to tell you guys here is really, really, really important. Okay. So if we go down to lower time frames and dissect this price action, okay, we've had these break of structures inducing buyers, okay. So we've induced buyers. Now, what's really, really important to see is when we have a break of structure and we take liquidity, okay, so notice how we've broken structure, induced early buyers, and then trapped them. These liquidity blocks, this gives me confirmation that we aren't going to go lower, okay? And we can use that as a liquidity block. Now, notice what happens after. So we've essentially trapped early buyers. Now, what we're waiting for is a build-up of price. So again, notice how we induce buyers at these highs. Okay, so we break structure, we respect these lows. Okay, we break structure again. Okay, and then we take that liquidity. Now, in order for us to take a buy, okay, we want to make sure that RR makes sense. Now, what I did was I waited for us to tap into this liquidity block, which we did. Now, it doesn't always occur. That's why Marco always mentions to take the trade once liquidity is taken. So I waited for us to tap in essentially to this liquidity block. Okay. And I basically targeted these highs, okay, to the left. Now, these highs are where we had that build-up of price, okay? Now, what can happen is once we take those highs, we can have that sell-off coming and taking all those lows and then go back up. Now, we didn't take all of that inducement from the left, okay? Now, that would have been your higher time frame target all the way to those highs there, okay? Now, I do believe we had a confirmation entry. Let me just have a look on, go to the 1 minute maybe. Clear my, yeah, so notice how before we took that high, okay, we respected, and that's why it's really important to pay yourself at structural highs and lows. So if you were in that trade, okay, you would have paid yourself here a little. Again, notice how we induced buyers, okay, and then we trapped them, okay. So forming again another liquidity block. So if I was in my trade here, from these lows, I would have probably moved my stops under this LB. And notice how price, again, we have this build up. Okay. So we basically broke higher, respected lows, broke higher, respected lows. So anything below this low would have been another entry. And just see if the RR makes sense. Yeah, I would have taken it to these highs. Okay. And that would have been the second entry on Friday on gold. Um, and then you could have taken that all the way to the highs. Notice how price comes and takes that high. Okay. And now that we've taken that high, if we zoom out, now that we've taken that high, um, we still have on the higher time frame, we have these highs intact. Okay. And then we have the highs above that. Okay. So you can see we have these highs as well. So we have loads of upside targets. Now, what we can see is now that we've induced buyers at these highs, we can come back and take out all of these lows. So I'm talking about this low here, okay? Because inducement from the left wasn't fully taken. Doesn't mean that price has to come and take that low. But because we've induced buyers, ideally what I'd like to see going into next week is we go lower to then go higher. Ideally, that is what I would like to see as a high probability trade, where we induce sellers, okay, trap these buyers that are in positions and then have the long all the way back up. And if that does happen, I see us going all the way to all-time highs eventually. Does anyone have any questions regarding PA on gold? Okay, so nothing until Friday, really. Any questions on gold? Yeah, Isan, that's correct. Yeah, hoping that makes sense to everyone. So when price respects the lows and makes a new LB, makes a new induce of buyers, does that make the LB more valid than if, yeah, exactly, Jippy. So once we have a reaction and then sweep the lows, the LB is much more high probability. And I'll give you guys some more examples of that. But yeah, that was pretty much gold's price action. Okay. Really clean stuff, to be honest. So I'll just keep those levels marked out so I know what I'm looking for going into next week. So we've taken those highs, taken those lows, and we have the next point of liquidity being those highs there. So that's what your gold chart should basically be looking like, really. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, whether it went higher, it did take out these highs. So, doesn't matter. Those highs are taken. We've induced buyers on a higher time frame now. Would you consider taking the long trade on Thursday at New York Open? On Thursday, New York Open, Thursday. Um, no, no, because we just sweeped liquidity. Okay, so we just took lows from the left. I wouldn't risk, you know, I wouldn't risk taking buys here because I don't want to take the extreme. We could have come lower and then moved higher. You want the lower time frame to align with the higher time frame. Okay. And even if you look at lower time frames here, yes, we might have trapped buyers and had the model play out, but I wouldn't have taken this trade. No, I wouldn't have taken this trade. Um, that high was already taken. Is that okay? Um, when you use the wick from a higher time frame to seek an LB, yeah. When to take direct and when to take confirmation? Well, you would take direct entries if there's a LB to the left hand side. So just like this Chitano, just like this trade here, because there was an LB to the left hand side, you can take that trade because there's an LB there. Confirmation is where the market trends higher from that LB and we see the same thing play out. Okay, so we see an LB form, which this would be a confirmation entry. Okay, and then you see a build up. So there's your build up. And then you see the build up taken whilst staying below our liquidity. So in this case, our liquidity is any buys below this high would have been valid. Okay, so any buys below this high would have been valid. Obviously, once we took this high, you would have paid yourself some profits, and I would have moved my stops to the second LB. Yeah, cool. My mind is really into the lows you marked before moving higher. I just need to react on what price is showing. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Cool. We'll delve into NQ because there was something on NQ that I want to just talk about. So if we look at NQ, we know we're trading at all-time highs, but there was something I wanted to show you guys. So this is really, really important to see. Okay. Really, really important to see. And this is a massive thing which I would recommend everyone goes and backtests. Now, me, Marco, Abid, and Elijah, we always love to see this, okay? And obviously the ones that have found success with this strategy might have noticed this. So we can all see that we all know how to spot an LB, okay, where you've trapped buyers, okay, or trapped sellers. So we can see that this is an LB, okay? Now, how do I know if this LB is going to be high probability? So before we see that build up taken, so you can see how we have a build up here, okay? Notice how we broke structure, okay? Respected, and then we moved away, okay? We now have liquidity below this low. So what we like to see, and I believe Abid's mentioned this in the market recaps, is if we can see buyers, early buyers get in through a break of structure and then trap them and take liquidity, these are really, really high probability setups. Okay, and look what happens. This would have obviously been a higher time frame entry. This would have been a higher time frame entry. And you would have probably targeted these highs and then the high to the left. Okay. And if you go on backtest, you will see that these are very high probability where we induced buyers, early buyers, through a break of structure and take liquidity from the left. Okay. And if there's an LB there, amazing. You know, we can take that direct entry. Now, I was waiting for this actually, where I saw the same thing happen. So if I just remove my tool here, I noticed how we broke structure to the upside here. We respected this whole area. Okay. And then, so notice how we respected, moved away, and then we trapped. So I would have treated this as an LB. Now, what happens after? Now, notice how we can see how we've been respecting this high as we've been inducing sellers. Okay. So as long as we stay below this high, we're good to take a buy. Notice how the market comes into this. We break structure to the upside. Now, this would have been lovely if we came and took these lows here. So if we go down to the lower time frames, so we induced buyers, we had a reaction up. Look, again, look, same thing that I've been telling you guys, how we have a break of structure to the upside. And then if we came and we trapped them, okay, that would have been a beautiful long back up, okay? And then you would have held all the way to all-time highs, which the market came for, okay? which was a really, really nice thing to see here. But yeah, Thursday I would have taken that long up if we came and spiked below. So something like this, if we came, spiked, and then moved away, that would have been really high probability. Um, yeah, everyone good? Everyone can see my screen, yeah? Perfect. So, what I'm basically trying to say, if I try to just draw this out as a diagram, is this. How would I do it? So, let's say we have a level of liquidity. If we break structure, trap, and then take out that liquidity, that is higher probability. And then we can wait for a build up, trap. So something like that, where let's just say we have liquidity to the left. Okay. If we see, for example, buyers induced, buyers trapped, and then we see liquidity taken, if you go and backtest that, you'll see some really, really good trades there. Okay. So yeah, that was NQ. To reiterate what I'm saying, um, so NQ is trading at all-time highs, so I won't be touching it until we see more PA. Euro. So again, if I show you the same thing, okay, notice how we've been essentially breaking lower, respecting highs, breaking lower. So what I mean by that is we had a breaker structure down, we're respecting this whole area, okay? Then we're breaking structure down, okay? Now look how we basically broke structure to the upside, okay? And then we trapped those early buyers. Notice the reaction at these lows, okay? Look, we broke structure to the upside, okay? So we broke structure to the upside. We formed an LB, okay? Now look, we have now engineered liquidity to the upside, okay? And what do? We come and take that liquidity, okay? So, why is it moving? Whoops. So we come and take that liquidity. That would have been a higher time frame entry on euro. So stops below the low, targeting the highs. Yeah, that would have been a higher time frame entry. And that was really clean to see. And again, look, notice how we induced buyers and then we trapped them. Okay. So we induce and then we trap. So that was basically euro. And I see euro moving higher up. We've got loads of liquidity points to target. I am bullish on euro for sure. Another thing we can go through was I think it was UJ. I think it was UJ on Friday, maybe. Yeah, so it was basically where, again, same thing that I want to show you guys, right? So we can see how we've had a build up of price at these lows. Okay, we can mark out this whole area. So notice how many times we've come and tapped into this area. We've induced buyers in the market. Okay, now this is really nice to see. So we come and we take this whole extreme inducement high. Now, what did we see before? Remember what I was saying? If we can see early sellers come in and early sellers get trapped, and we take a high or a low from the left, so in this case, we've taken a high, and we have an LB above, these are super, super important. If we're targeting engineered liquidity, that would have been pretty clean. That's something you could have taken. I mean, targeting those lows. Yeah, so that's pretty clean. So what I'm basically trying to reiterate here is that before you guys take any trades, if you start to look at, as well as taking liquidity, if we've induced early sellers and trapped them, you should see those trades play out more often. I believe there was an example today on BTC. It was I have it marked out, but so we've induced sellers, okay. So we took out these lows. I'll just go down to lower time frames so we can see this better. So I'll just write it out. So we had a BOS sellers induced. Okay. And then what we've basically done along the way is we've respected this kind of POI to the left. Okay. And notice again, look, we've induced buyers through the BOS. We've tracked them. Okay. And then we've taken that low from the left. Okay. Or we could say that liquidity, that inducement from the left. Notice where that reaction came out from. Okay. So once we've taken that, look at the reaction we get from here, and we can target those highs from there. So yeah, really clean stuff here. Yeah, it's exactly. I wouldn't be looking for sales prop on BTC only because we've just taken a level of liquidity from the left. I think you asked this question before. We've taken liquidity from the left. Yes, on the higher time frame, we are bearish. So you're right in saying that. So we've taken these highs. However, we've just come and taken this build up. So maybe we see these highs taken, or even this high taken before we see a move back down. Yeah, that's basically BTC for you. The floor is yours, everyone. Any questions you guys want, let me know. That's pretty much what I wanted to kind of go through. I believe there was an entry on AU. I was looking at it today. Anyone take this? So we are bullish on AU. Why? Because we're looking to take out these highs from the left. Okay, notice how we've had that reaction down, inducing sellers. Okay, so we've induced sellers here. And if I scroll all the way to the left, we basically had a break of structure to the upside. So hold on, so we've induced sellers. Okay. And then we had a build up at these highs. Okay. So if I just mark that out. So notice how we've had those reactions. Okay. We've induced buyers, but we stayed below the inducement from the left. Okay. And then we basically trapped them, okay, at these lows, okay? And if we go down to lower time frames, okay, again, what do you guys notice about before we took? So if I point this out again, we'll take the whole candle. What do you guys notice before we took this level of liquidity? Notice how we came in, we broke structure. Okay, we had that bullish structure, that break of structure, inducing buyers, trapping them, okay? And we form an LB, okay? So there's an LB there. And I believe if we go to lower time frames, you could have taken this. I mean, it's not the cleanest, but we induced buyers. This would have been a higher time frame entry, to be honest. And then we trap them. Now, these I don't really like taking as much because they are higher time frame. But notice the reaction you have from this candle. Again, even on a smaller scale, we break structure. And this is something I want you guys to go and back test. And then we trap, okay? And then you would have had this basically. So 16 pips. And then you would have targeted the highest. So 1 to 4 basically. And that was a trade you could have taken on AU. I believe that's on Thursday. Yeah, going over to Friday. Yeah. A New York session. What's the difference between what criteria do you do whether a set qualifies as A plus? Yeah, I'm bullish. I am bullish on USD pairs. Okay. What criteria do you use to determine whether a setup qualifies as A plus? I mean, that gold setup was pretty much your A plus setup, right? So if we go through a criteria, the first criteria should always be, do we have engineered liquidity to target? Yes or no? If we don't have engineered liquidity to target, then there's no trade, okay? It's as simple as that. So this is what I mean by engineered liquidity, okay? That's step one. Do we have engineered liquidity to target? Obviously, we want to be pro-bias, not counter-bias. So maybe make a note of this. So, you know, a criteria for an A plus setup, engineered liquidity, pro-bias, okay? So let's say we're looking at a buy setup. We want to see our early buyers trapped, okay? So if we go down to lower time frames, yep, we trapped early buyers, okay? So is there a liquidity block we can take a direct entry from? No. So then we wait for a build up. Second step after creation of a LB is a build up. You want to see a build up of price, okay? Do we keep those highs intact? Yes or no? If yes, then once that build up's taken, you can take an entry, okay? That's your A plus criteria, to be honest. Yeah, Lorenz, I think, I'm not sure if you're new to the course. So yes, you know, you can say that we have liquidity below, okay? But then we have liquidity at these lows too. So what's to say price couldn't come to these lows? The problem is that we don't want to treat it as a pattern. You want to look at where buyers are being trapped. It doesn't matter, you know, if we have liquidity below it, it does make it lower probability. However, okay, as long as we see those buyers being trapped and then we have a build up, you're fine to take the trade, okay? you're fine to take the trade. Um, and if it doesn't work out, then, that's a loss. We're not always going to win in this market. Okay. Um, any other questions, guys? How to figure out this? It did not take the inducement low. I've already gone through that. I was that US 30. When's that? On the 28th. We can check it out. So on US 30, I'm gonna use the YM chart because that's the true data for indices. But yeah, what did we do? We came and we trapped those buyers. Okay. So we induced buyers, trapped them, and took a level of liquidity. So again, this is what I was talking about, guys. So look, notice how we induced buyers, trapped them, okay, and we took a level of liquidity from the left. These are powerful LBs, okay. We kept these highs intact, which is really nice to see, okay. So we even had a reaction from there. So we had a reaction from there. We kept these lows, okay. I don't think there was a entry. Yeah, I don't think there was any entry. We took the highs and then we came and took those lows. If we stayed below these lows, if we stayed below these lows and we took out all of this, that would have been nice to ride the longs back up, but we didn't. Okay, so there was no entry on YM. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? We can kind of clarify technical terms as well. So a lot of people confuse inducement from the left. So this would be inducement from the left. So I like to just call it IFL. So inducement from the left. This is where we've induced buyers, for example. Okay. And then you have your inducement high and inducement low. Okay. So for example, if I just zoom out. So this low, for example, took this high out. So this would be classed as your inducement low. Okay. And then you have your structural high, and then you have your inducement high. They're completely different things. So just to make sure you guys understand this properly, the low that takes out the high is called your inducement low. Okay, so I'll repeat that again. So the low that takes out the high, okay, so has that break of structure, where that reaction came from is your inducement low. Okay. And then if we do it the other way around, so the high that takes the low, do you know what? I'll go to NQ because I don't really like YM. But yeah, I'll show you guys here. So for example, when we took out, whoops, when we took out these lows, okay, we go down to lower time frames. So when we go down to, that's the low that took out this high. Okay, so that would be your inducement low. Okay, so the low that took that high, look, notice how we have reactions from there. Okay, that's your inducement low. Hoping that makes sense. Could you show this example on higher time frame? Yeah, sure. So you want to see the inducement high, basically. Let me have a look at an example. So notice how we took that low. It's literally that. So look, we had the reaction, the high that took that low. Yeah. Would you say you parked the bus at all-time high? Yeah, 100%. Highs to be taken on YM, yeah. What is higher probability, the left or the right? You're treating it as a pattern. I can see that already. I would not be learning the strategy like this. They're both the same thing. They're both just showing a different build-up. They're both just showing a different build-up. I would say the first one, the one on the left. Yeah, so the inducement low, yeah, you want to see price drop below that, yeah, 100%. How would you break down a market with lots of data like BTC and silver? We just went through that. So my risk management on funded accounts, I have some funded accounts which I risk more on, like 1 to 2%. And I have some funded accounts where I risk $250 to $500 per trade on a 50K account. Obviously, if I see a Da Vinci setup, I'd risk more. Like this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well done. A Da Vinci setup. Yeah, sure. So, how do I explain this? So So it's not the cleanest of diagrams, but just to explain a Da Vinci setup, it's basically where you, for example, have a break of structure. There's no liquidity, so the market engineers liquidity. Okay, and in doing so, creates an LB, just as we were just saying. Just so we create an LB, and then we have our entry model, all right? And then you take that short down. It's where the market essentially engineered liquidity and created an LB. And notice how we formed an LB. So that would be your Da Vinci setup. How many accounts? I think I've got like 1M in funding at the minute. Da Vinci setup, no, it's not a pattern. It's not a pattern. Just because I'm showing it as a diagram, it doesn't mean it's a pattern. What is your bias on your most pairs you're going to trade next week? Looks like you're looking for a signal, mate. I'm joking. Well, I'm looking at gold. I want to see what gold does from here. We could see shorts back down to these lows, 4371.5. However, if we continue going bullish, then I am targeting these highs here. So it's I just need more PA basically. We're in an extreme on the daily. But I am expecting the lows to go before the highs on gold. On NQ, it's untradeable at the minute for me, to be honest. It's just at all-time highs. Euro, I'm looking for longs higher, way higher, to be fair. I'm hoping for something like this on Euro. Come for these highs here. Because we've now engineered liquidity. Notice how we've basically engineered liquidity now. So yeah. On Euro, I'm looking for longs. Yeah, I wouldn't buy gold at the minute. We've just if I go back to gold, sorry, yeah, good question. I wouldn't be buying gold at the minute, straight away because we've just taken out a structural high. We've induced buyers. Okay. Could that low on EU weekly chart be the start of the early buyers, the low of EU on the weekly? No, I think we've actually put in the low of, I think we actually put in the low. I think we just move higher from here, to be honest. Yeah, I think we move higher from here on EU anyway, for sure. How would you break down a market with lots of data like BTC and silver? Just like I break down any market, I focus on liquidity. No, I don't trade silver. Guys, any other technical questions you guys want to ask? I did want you guys to come with questions. It's completely up to you guys what you take from the webinars. Yeah, feel free. I've been trading this strategy for about 3 years. Yeah, Jeppy. Yeah. German 40. Uh, German 40. Yeah, so on a higher time frame, we've induced sellers. So we've induced sellers. We've built liquidity at the highs. So yeah, I'm looking for it to essentially trade higher. I have these levels marked out anyway, on an intraday basis anyway. So notice how we induced buyers, hopefully trap them. Oh, we did trap them. Yeah, so maybe we can take out. So look at where this reaction came from. Maybe we come and take all of these lows. I just gave the answer to that, Dominique, in this webinar. Just rewatch it back. Giggles, the price is fractal. There isn't a set time frame. Do you follow liquidity in any order? Yeah, I go from higher time frame to lower time frame. So is the entry model that when an LB forms, we wait for another LB to form following to enter. Basically, if it's low LB, we wait. Yeah, you can wait for another LB, Vicky. Yeah. Taco NQ. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, basically, everyone look at what just Taco just put in the chat. Yeah. My average win rate is around 62%. I'm actually keeping track of that. 62% at the minute. I take about 3 to 5 trades a week, and that's recently on the higher end. I mean, last week I only took 1 trade, so yeah. Copy trade? Like, no. I do on my Lucid accounts, yeah. Do you journal? Yeah, I do. I have my own. I have like a Discord channel where I log all my trades before, after. I do a video breakdown of pre-market and then after as well. Um, just to give you guys an insight into my trading. Um, yeah, I'm currently up on my Lucids around 10K or something like that. And I've just passed all my Alpha Premium accounts. You can get 5 of those. Yeah, the Discord's for myself. No, I'm not a full-time trader. No, I'm not. I'm a teacher, yeah. No, multiple accounts, Esther. Multiple accounts. Yeah, you want to see the reaction out of retail POI, Raya SL. Yeah, you want to see a reaction, inducing sellers and then having those early buyers trapped. Yeah, I'm a teacher in a school. I don't think I'd ever like, unless I've got serious buffers in place, I wouldn't go full-time trading. Um, yeah, yeah. And you guys want me to break down any other pairs? I can go through like some crypto pairs that I've been looking at. Ethereum, maybe. You guys want me to go through anything? Sol and ETH, oil. Yeah, cool. So so notice how on Ethereum, we've taken highs. We've come and taken a liquidity, sorry, from the left. Okay. And then if you look at what price did after taking that, we basically induced buyers at these highs. And then we came and trapped them. And again, remember what I was saying to you guys. We looked to the left. We came and took out basically that extreme inducement low. In fact, we can break this down. So on the ETH chart, we came and took that liquidity from the left. I then kind of go down to lower timeframes and I wait for the lower timeframes to align with the higher time frame. So again, notice how we induced buyers and then we trapped them. Wow, no, that's proper clean. Formed an LB. Wow, what a trade that would have been. Again, notice the build up in price. So look, we've induced sellers. Okay. We've then had a breaker structure. We've respected these lows. Broke structure again. Again, remember what I said. We want to see that break of structure, that trap, and liquidity taken. Wow, and look at the reaction. That would have been a direct entry targeting those highs there for 1 to 3. Perfect. When was this? This is clean. Friday, 3 p.m. Timing's a bit, yeah, but yeah, exactly the technicals that we've been speaking about illustrated on this chart, guys. Pay attention. So we had an LB form. We trapped buyers. Again, notice the reactions we have. We can even really break it down. We induced buyers from here, then trapped them. Okay. LB formed, build up. I think we came and took out that whole build up as well from the left. Respecting that high to the left. Valid euro. Mm, yes, and we took the highs. It's just lower probability, to be honest. Yeah, you could have taken that. That stop is really tiny though. Mm, I'll tell you why I wouldn't have taken that, Lorenz. I'll tell you why I wouldn't have taken that. I think I know where that is. It's here, isn't it? Because look at this. This is why I wouldn't have taken it. Look at that. It's just a build up on the higher time frame. Remember, the higher time frame takes priority. Yeah. Yeah, it could look so clean on the lower time frames. Honestly, the model can look really clean on the lower time frames, but higher time frame always takes priority. Always. Always. Cool, guys. Any other questions? This is probably the only technical type webinar I want to focus on. So now's your chance. How many pairs do you do pre-market and post? I do NQ and gold and sometimes YM. Oil. What's oil again? CL. Yeah. Um, Oil induced lower. Um, on the weekly, that just looks gross to me. Yeah, look at that. That just looks really gross. We probably come for these lows on oil. That's my best bet on oil. Yeah, because it's just consolidating, isn't it? Let's see. Let's go down to lower time frames. Yeah, we're building at the highs. Yeah, we probably come and take these lows. Keep an eye on these lows here because we broke structure and so all buyers being induced here. I think we're going to come and trap them for sure. That's the next destination. So maybe we see a move up, clearing liquidity, and then come for the lows on oil. Higher time frame, daily, 4 hour, 1 hour. How do you develop patience in trading? I literally have two lines, and I set an alert. If price doesn't come to my entry or where I want price, then I don't even look at the chart. Can you clarify which highs or lows need to be taken to clear? Have buyers or sellers induced before traps? I'm not sure of your question, Lorenz. Can you show me an example? Yeah, just show me a picture. I tend to I tend to take direct market executions. Cool. Any other questions? Now's your chance, guys. Any other questions? Gold. That I wouldn't trust that as an LB. I wouldn't trust that as an LB on the 30-minute as well. We're at an extreme on gold. I want to see more price action. So I don't really like predicting, but if we are inducing buyers, I want to see something like this. If we are going short anyway, I want to see price build, react off this LB, take out these early sellers, and then start planning my shorts down. Okay. Yeah, I'll make my channel on YouTube public soon. It'll be public soon. I'm just setting all of that up at the minute. You're being too intricate there. Look at where price reacted from, GP. Look at where price reacted from. A bit too intricate. But yeah, that price could have come and taken that. Is this enough inducement? Yeah, that's a break of structure, isn't it? Notice how price induced buyers by having that move up and then sellers down. And look at the move after. Yeah, really nice. Before the trap, yeah, that's what you want to see. Cool, guys. Any other questions before we round off this webinar? Now's your chance. I add alerts and track price. The early inducement is super important for me and most people who found success with this strategy. Someone says Solana. Yeah, look at the liquidity we've basically engineered at these highs. Solana to the highs, taking these lows. We're reacting off at LB, taking liquidity. Again, notice the breaker structure before and then taking those lows. We should see a move up on Solana to these highs. I'm quite bullish on these crypto pairs, to be honest. What do you think about to operate? Yeah, I trade New York. I trade New York. Would that LB be valid or wait for the red line to be taken first? Yeah, I would wait for the red line to be taken first. You're getting into some, yeah, so market open, there's a lot of manipulation at market open, that's why. And reversals do occur at 10 a.m., yeah. Yeah, internal areas are where we've built liquidity. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, guys, I'll leave it here for today. I'm hoping you guys found this webinar useful and we've cleared up any, technical misunderstandings. And,